I greet you in Jesus' precious name. It is Saturday morning. It's the 24th of February, 2024. And this is your friend, Angus Buchen, with a thought for the day. We start off in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 23, and I'm reading verse 50. Now, behold, there was a man named Joseph, a council member, a good and just man. That was Joseph of Arimathea, a businessman. Then we go to Matthew chapter 1, and I'm reading verse 24. Then Joseph, being aroused from sleep, did as the angel of the Lord commanded him, and took to him his wife. And then right down the bottom of verse 25, and he called his name Jesus. We need to do the work which God has called us to do. We can't all be great ambassadors for Jesus, but we can do the work that God has called us to do. Now, Joseph of Arimathea was a businessman. He wasn't a great preacher. He wasn't a great leader. He was a good, solid, just man. He was the one who went to Pontius Pilate and asked for the body of Christ. He could have done that at his own peril. He could have died for doing that. And he took the body of the master down. He washed his body. He embalmed his body in fresh linen, which he bought, and spices, which he paid for. And he put the body of Christ in his own personal tomb that he had cut out of sheer rock for his own burial. Very expensive operation. He did it gladly because he loved the Lord. Just an ordinary man doing his little part of what God has called him to. What about Joseph, the carpenter? You don't hear much about Joseph, do you? Well, I want to tell you that Joseph, the carpenter, was the man who had the privilege of naming that baby that Mary bore. He named the baby Jesus. He was the one who put bread on the table and was responsible for clothing and paying for accommodation for Jesus from the time he was born until the time he was 30 and he went out into public ministry. But you don't hear much about him, do you? Well, I want to tell you, he was mightily used by God. He had the privilege of housing Emmanuel in his home. I read this beautiful little saying the other day in a devotional. He does the most for God's great world who does the best in his own little world. You and I today, let's just get on with the job that God's called us to, and he will do the rest. Jesus bless you, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.